I'd like to get them approved tonight, so we can get them into the system. It shows the accounts. It's in your budget packet, but it was easy to just print another set.
Like you said, you redid it all again, but
Well, no. It's the same thing that's in your budget packet, we just print an extra page, because that is what you need to approve tonight. So, I know in the last budget meeting, somebody requested to see all the transfers that have done during the course of the year, requested to have done. They don't apply because they weren't approved, so they're not. So I'd like to have the board approve $120,000 worth of transfers.
Anything else before we go into questions?
I think that's it.
Sarah, I'll come to you. Carol?
No questions.
The backup pages before this relate how?
I'm sorry?
So we have a whole series of pages.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's pages 1 through 6. I assume is the backup to these transfers? I'm trying to,
Correct. If you go to attachment, the backup page, all of these pages that are in this budget projection, they're always the same.
Yep.
You realize that, and that came from finance last year on what they agreed to see. So attachment 2, which is titled Budget Status Report by Object. If you go down the objects, I generally transfer anything that's greater than $2,000.
right.
I cover the deficits.
So,
So those transfers relate to the deficits on those objects. The other transfers I don't do is the large transfers that have to do with special ed, tuition, professional services, because it's just, it's easier to let the excess cost money come in, and then whatever the deficit is in those accounts, the money in all the other accounts that we have a surplus or due to freeze covers the budget. And the goal, as I've said, is, we have a $28 million budget, we're not going to overspend that budget.
so like line item 120 in the backup sheet says we've already transferred 202,000.
Correct.
Okay. So any of the things in this backup are transfers that have occurred when they're,
Correct.
okay.
So in the object report, we're really looking, I'm looking at the balance. So if you look at object 126, extra days, it's a $7,600 deficit. Object 126.
26 on.
Yep.
See that? And it's a $7,600 deficit.
So it should be a transfer on this,
And I'm covering, I'm gonna make you crazy.
oh
I'm
yeah,
covering 2660 because we're going to get $5,000 towards that account from, Crackery's account. From the mentor, $5,000.
Okay.
These kind of things. So therefore, that $7,600 deficit, $5,000 is going to, when the money comes in, that'll be credited to that account. So I only need to cover the 26,000. That was a bad example. We shouldn't have picked that one. So,
It's like 280 health insurance.
280.
31,000.
yes. So if you look on the transfer sheet, we're transferring $31,000 into health insurance.
So any of these balances that are greater, deficit balances that are greater than 2,000, this
Right.
will adjust those
Yes.
down.
So that's trying to make it, describing it simply, but it's, you know, there's more to it than just, let's look at a number and then the money over.
Is that all your questions?
Yeah, I'm starting to understand this.
Joe?
Yes, I thought we were gonna get these transfers on Friday. I think we had enough, not enough time here to review this material. It's given to us now, we've got no time to really decipher any of it, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And we were assured that we were gonna have this over the weekend to look at this. I am the guy who's requested all the transfers, because I'd like to know exactly to the penny where we stand on transfers, total transfers for the year. And I don't see, where is that, I requested that. So I don't have it, are we gonna get that tonight?
Well, whatever you've already approved in transfers,
We should have
And
the
then-
records.
Right.
In the minutes, the previous
those are in the
meeting.
minutes, and then this is the next set of transfers. As I said, we did 2 budget projections that required transfers per board policy, but they weren't presented.
I have transfers here for $306,000, that was done in December.
Mhm.
I have a handout that was passed to us last week, says transfers approved, 1017 for another 547,000. And then not acted on, 97,000, and not acted on, 26,000. So are these the same 97 and 128, is that the 128 you're asking for?
No, the 97, the ones that were not acted on, I start all over. So, it's a moot point,
Those would have been approved.
because by the time you go to do another, I'm sorry,
For whatever reason.
But we didn't make the transfers.
So they didn't make those, no.
right, they weren't done.
So she was saying, each time she does another payroll, another cycle through the accounting through the month, the balance and adjust, projections change. So it's not just another set of transfers, because of timing, she has to redo the whole analysis.
But we have to, do we not approve these transfers? Did I miss something?
They weren't approved. They weren't approved, they weren't presented. They weren't presented to the board,
Okay,
that because I don't remember. Well, one was a budget,
One would cut the meeting early.
one, so
You were
and I was ill, so they didn't present the,
so my question, I guess, is, another question, is, so these 97 and the 28,000 is not included in the 128?
If they're not acted on, they weren't included.
Okay,
what happened to those deficits?
because I'm a little bit confused on that, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, say we had an account in, the night I wasn't here, that I was out in. And in that, we had an account and I was gonna transfer $5,000. Transfer didn't happen, transfer didn't get approved, so the transfer wasn't done. Now, we look at that account again, that account may still be $5,000 in deficit, or maybe $10,000 in deficit. So a new set of transfers were done today, which is good. Is there for you to approve.
So we should be, they wouldn't have just gone away. They might have been
Right.
pressed, but they wouldn't have just gone away.
Well, sometimes it could go away too, because we could have canceled encumbrances since the last time. Don't forget, every time we're doing a budget projection, every month, people were looking at the purchase orders. So someone could have had a purchase order that was driving the account into the hole, and then they adjusted the PO, and it put money back in. So that's why you can't try to, you have to recreate all the transfers. You can't keep,
Okay,
so.
so those are just tossing the garbage. Those-
They weren't approved, so we couldn't do them. I'm sorry. They weren't approved, so they couldn't put it in the system so that the next time you look at the account, you can see that a transfer went in or went out.
Okay, so, thank you for the explanation. So my next question is, in this current year budget, we obviously got some overages. We know there's $160,000 in copier contract, overages in special education. So you're trying, right now you're saying there's a $47,000 budget deficit. Do we have the teachers have they been asked, I know there was a freeze, so have they been asked to, not get some of their textbooks and supplies? Have that all been paid for? They've gotten everything they needed for the end of the year? We're at the end of the year, obviously. I'm assuming that they've achieved or obtained everything that they've requested that we approved as a board.
We put a budget freeze on.
I'm sorry?
I put a budget freeze on. So when we initiated that budget freeze, when we first started that budget freeze in January, if it has to do with educating the student or special ed, payrolls, those type of things, they went for it. The department chairs, the principals were judicious, and even if someone was putting in something for supply, they would determine whether or not that they really needed it. Now we're at that stage where whatever money is there that isn't encumbered, you know what an encumbrance is, I don't know what an encumbrance is. So if there's a balance in that account, at this stage of the game, I'm saying, they're not spending that money anymore, they're done. And all of those balances, those positive balances, for instance, if there's $10,000 in an overall supply account, that is what's helping this deficit, to make the deficit lower. Because if you look at the top of this sheet, originally on the system, we're $166,000 in a deficit.
So I guess, and it's kind of piggybacking on what Bill was saying. So there seems to be this misunderstanding, as far as I'm concerned, that education is being impacted by what we're contemplating doing with the budget this year. And I can't get my head around it because, quite frankly, we haven't pretty much approved in this budget everything that's been requested. So I'm trying to get my head around why it is educators are thinking that we need to choose, we're not choosing academics or education. And I'm wondering if these freezes, that's where they're getting this perception that it's either athletics or education, and there's a movement out there that they're saying that the education is being hurt. And so I'm wondering, maybe it is that when they're putting in their purchase orders, they're not getting their purchase orders, their requests at this point, and that's why they're saying, you know what, you guys are choosing sports over education. And does that make sense?
I think we're talking about the 2016,
Yes, right.
17 budget.
Right.
What the public is talking about is the 2017-18 budget.
Right, but it's a culture, I think the conversation is happening at the same time. We're talking about budget freezes, and people are impacted, and they're also having conversations about, okay, let's add a coach. And I'm wondering if that's confusion, that's creating confusion for people to say, you know, we're not getting what we want. We're getting cuts here from an education or academic standpoint.
Things are being cut because we have to work within our budget. So things are being done.
Let's keep the question, I just want to make sure.
My question is, again, I don't think I really got the answer, but I want to be clear that in the $28 million that we approved last year for this current year budget that we're in, and you did implement a budget freeze, I just want to understand that if all the teachers got their supplies and teachers got their textbooks, and we got everything that they asked for, or they got everything that they asked for, and we have these overages, in my opinion, knowing on what I know on these finances, and I look at them pretty closely, you have, which is why I asked for the transfers, because I want to know if I could have a total number of what you transferred. You know, you're moving money from here to there. When I give you my vote, to vote on the budget, I expect that money is going to go to the funds where it's supposed to go. And I know it's your job. and Dr. Saminsky's job to, when you have shortcomings, to figure out where that money is going to come from. But I think what I'm hearing is that we're asked to get a 1% increase or decrease or 0% decrease. And we're finding, we had over $400,000 in special education costs that we did not go back to the towns for. I'm only looking at what I know is that somewhere in this budget, there was money that we had to come up with, and serious money that we had to come up with the shortcomings. And I'd like to know where that is. I see it in these transfers, and I'm going to give you a specific example of a transfer that happened last year. In the high school athletic director, we took $15,300 out of athletics, and you moved it to teacher resignations replaced by long-term subs.
The board moved it.
The board moved it. So then we had high school athletic conference, the board approved to move that. School-wide athletic insurance was moved. We've had debates about athletics, but we're moving money from athletics, we're moving money from maintenance that we approved to have these monies go to fix some of these problems. And, I just don't understand how we can be moving money of this magnitude and people asking us to have reductions, and we're not looking at that. I'm bamboozled by it. So I can't follow your logic a lot of times, and I apologize for that, but giving me paper on, in 10 minutes, during a meeting, I can't make heads or tails of this. And I'm a little taken back by moving money from athletics, I'm sorry. And then we're spending it on something else that we don't really know what we're spending on. The only two people that really know what's going on in this budget really are yourself and Dr. Saminsky. And I don't mean to make accusations, I'm not, but I think at this time when we're looking at talking about, $70,000 in athletic increases, and we're moving money from athletics to other things, that's kind of, that's double standards in my books. So I would really like to know the total number, if you can give it to me tonight. I did request it, how much money in total transfers we have moved to date. Do you have that number? Is it $1 million?
You have two of them in your hand, right? And we do
I don't know what I have in my hand. I have numbers that don't.
You just referred to one from December, was it, or October? What was
Yeah.
the date?
The total number.
I just want the total number from this. I only have one approved that I have. I did request it.
I don't know, the question I heard was.
I'd like to know the total amount we have transferred in transfers in this budget, this current year budget. How much money did we move around?
Point of order, we're just really trying to decide whether these accounts get paid and they get reconciled.
It's a question.
And-
We're on the
and
questions.
This is just
It's a
basic
question.
account.
Here's
It's
the
two
question.
Question or
I understand
information.
your point. Here's the question. We could take a recess and go online and pull the minutes from the meetings where the board approved it and add the two meetings together where we didn't come up with the total amount of the transfer. We've only done it, and I have to be honest, the board historically had done this at the end of the year. And I know that created a lot of angst with some of the new board members. And now we're doing our best to try to do it on a more periodic basis. And so why you don't have access to this information, I don't understand, but we can get it. If we can take a recess and go online and pull it from the minutes, if we just move the meeting dates that it happened and just add two sheets together, you'll have the full amount. And nothing has been done in secret, it's all been approved by the board.
I'm not saying, I did request the information in an email, that's all I'm saying.
Okay,
I did request the information.
Okay.
Ms. Neal made reference to it, I'm not picking on Ms. Neal. I just want to have
No,
the
I
information.
understand. I'm just trying to facilitate the information, but I also recognize that Ms. Neal has been bombarded with a large number of emails and requests, plus other duties, plus other issues with staffing in the office to get stuff done. So, plus budget and everything else that happens. So I'm not trying to say that she doesn't have the information. We'll get it. I mean, it's
But
it's
in
not-
fairness, Danny, we put off last meeting to allow, because we didn't want to be, you know,
We put off the last
so,
meeting.
last meeting
At
we
the last
discussed.
meeting, we gave Ms. Neal an opportunity to come tonight to do a side-by-side
Correct, okay.
comparison of special
Because there
education
was a
and
lot of,
athletics. It wasn't for transfers. Tonight was the night that she was going to present to us the updated list of transfers because we didn't do it at the last two meetings.
there was a lot of emails, I agree with that. But I felt like we were giving her time, because there was a lot of emails, to come back to this meeting with the answers from the emails plus what we discussed.
And I think my last comment at the meeting was, tonight being Monday, would you have enough time to get all this stuff done?
Yes, I remember that
I asked
question.
that question, and it was, she didn't know, but she said she would do her best. But anyway,
Okay, I've got the answer,
You
I've
have
got
all
the
the
answer.
pages.
So if I have all the pages, if this, Jan, I'm just gonna run it by you. So 547, 656,
Does that say approved?
transfer approved,
Okay, so you have 5.
transfer not approved,
So forget it, throw it away.
okay. Transfer not acted on, that's
All right.
not approved. So 306, 805, plus 547,
656.
656, plus 128,
but we haven't done that one yet.
but assuming
Yes,
982,461.
Does that include the special education, deficit we had?
Could you repeat the number?
982,461.
Because there was a shortage, because.
no, I mentioned, I'm not doing those large transfers because we have excess cost management. And the rest of the excess cost funds have not come in to offset those accounts. Yes, the special ed accounts are in a deficit.
Yeah, like,
Those are all my questions, or a lot of my questions.
So those accounts are still in a deficit. And short of taking every balance in every account and moving it into special ed, I mean, I'm dealing with the overall bottom line.
I was wondering about that, because these 900,000, whatever, 900,000 we just put in with,
982.
are all transfers separate from the special ed shortage that we.
There may be some transfers that went into special ed, I don't
But
know.
not that significant.
Probably not.
No further questions. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to go heavier into those special ed accounts. Specifically,
So, Rich, if I can ask a question, are there any transfers here on the special ed account?
I was expecting that tonight we would have transfers that would balance our books. We're not there.
What do you mean by balance the books? If there's money in one account, that if I have a surplus in one account, move to an account that's in a deficit? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So every account shows zero.
Yes.
I can't do it.
No.
They can't do it.
Because it's not July.
That
No, I
doesn't
can't
happen.
do it, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. And if you recall, the auditor said, you don't even have to do that. Yeah, it's not possible for someone to expect someone to move $10 items, $100 items, $20 items. It's not possible.
I can understand the small ones, I get more concerned with some of these that are in much larger.
Okay, can you give it, what page are you on right now?
Well, let me go, I'm looking at the object budget. So if we look at the 300, which is purchase professional services, it's
Correct.
192 in the whole.
How did I have special ed?
Okay, so what
So,
are we expecting, 192 from the state or?
no, we're expecting 100 and, so look at attachment 1, we're expecting from the remainder of 128,265.
Okay, so,
Special ed costs special ed accounts are overdrawn due to, outplacements, you gotta help me out here, because I don't get involved.
Yeah, we've heard that.
Okay,
But the question I have is, if we only have 120 something coming in from, we're gonna, in this one line, and there's a whole bunch of other lines that were over by $192,000, where's the money gonna come to balance that line?
money's gonna come from the other objects that have balances, but I'm also projecting a deficit.
Only at 44,000.
I'm projecting a $44,000 deficit based on this sheet.
Yep.
It shows what I still think we're going to spend that's not encumbered right now. It's not set aside to pay people or to pay things. And then what additional revenues we expect to get in. We expect to get in another $230,000 in revenues. The big number is the 128 from the excess cost. This, we expect to get roughly $22,000 for community use of buildings. $33,000 for pay to play. $30,000 for tuition, so.
I would assume our pay to play is done right now, we have those numbers.
If we haven't put it against the books, I have to account for it, that's how I'm accounting for it here. So,
I don't feel comfortable that we have enough money in this budget to balance it without stripping every penny out of every other account. Plus 40, plus 44,000.
47,700.
47,000, correct.
well, that's exactly what
Yeah,
I'm
but we
doing
still
now.
don't have enough to cover it.
But these other accounts need to be balanced, and you need funds in them to pay the bills. So, I mean,
I'm concerned that where I have all these overages on these accounts, it's May 15th.
wait till the end of the year to transfer each fund, you know, like we did before, but
You can't transfer money you don't have, that you've already spent elsewhere.
It's not money.
it's not money.
It's balances in those accounts that haven't been spent, that are allocated as a part of the $28 million budget.
Right, but we have another 500 or 100, or more than that, $100,000 to transfer around. We're using obsolete information to do our next budget. We have no clue really where our current budget is.
True. I mean, we have the balances, I mean, where we're at, it's, a budget is just a point of time. When it was printed today, it's
Let's just let everybody finish the question. So if we have
funds
any
of huge
questions.
funds.
Okay, so there was 192, and you said we had 100, and we had enough to cover that coming in. Then we have legal services, that's 44, did you already put, well, we're in the hole, 44, and you moved 4,000 in. So there's another,
Because as this printout, if you look at legal services, you have an encumbrance of how much money?
61,000.
$61,000. I canceled $40,000 on the PO today. I can't keep
Okay.
changing the numbers, that's the reason why this report is late.
Okay.
So therefore, we're not moving as much.
Public transportation, we're over 27,000. Big 510.
Pupil transportation that has to do with, both the transportation, special ed and regular pupil transportation. If you go back to other budget projection memos, we're sending students now to Cheney Tech, that was not budgeted. That, I can go back to the budget memo to show you where I mentioned that. We also didn't get $70,000 from the state in grant.
How long ago did we know that we were having this problem? You talked about it a long time ago.
Well, if the board wishes, that's fine. If every time I do a budget projection, the board wants me to reiterate the same,
No, this has been brought to us.
right,
I guess
right.
I just, I
Yeah.
guess guess we're just asking for clarification.
Yeah, no, that's
This
okay.
is helpful
At a
for
certain
me.
point, if we
For me.
run these deficits up, we should be going out for additional revenue. Right, we don't know what the amount is.
How do you do that? I might go off for additional, I know what you mean, but how do you, give me a plan, what would that look like the board do?
We would have to go to a district meeting and get revenue, right?
District, get revenue, a district meeting, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Supplemental appropriation.
That's not revenue, you mean,
I mean, like,
I know what you mean,
come back to
revenue, you
me,
want more, an
Decrease in the budget.
increase in budget.
Supplementary appropriation.
Right.
Exactly. It's hard, it's, how can you eat $600,000 in a budget?
How can you collect it from people that may not have it?
Any more questions?
Oh, we get the same answer on all this. So, no.
Procedurally, it's the first time in 10, 11, 12 years that I've been here that I've actually seen a budget deficit come before the board. Procedurally, how is that addressed? Let's say, for instance, you're not able to put enough income, protections in the budget and the freeze to eliminate the deficit, you actually have a deficit. What is it procedurally deficit?
I think I'd have to double check, I think the procedure is that the funds would be taken from the subsequent year's budget. I have to check the accounts, I'm not 100% sure on that. That's a discussion I had a long time ago, and my information is supposed to be, I should have that discussion in the council.
My concern with that, I guess, would be, one, we're going back to the attorney to get clarification, but it's something that we need to get clarity on. So it's going to drive the cost of that. Just the second question I have is about what Mr. Jacobson asked about supplemental appropriation, whatever the wording was for that. What is that? Has it ever been done?
It hasn't been done, what would happen, what would have to happen is, as I understand it, you go to the district meeting, and then each town would appropriate the money for it, the towns would have to appropriate the money for it.
But let me understand that part. So if this board decides to do a district meeting to do a supplemental appropriation, and we come to the meeting and it's voted on, and it goes to the towns,
That's right.
it's
Then
automatic.
the towns. have
Towns
to
don't vote.
Towns don't vote.
It's in the statute.
That's interesting. I didn't know the board had that kind of.
Is that a confirmed statement? Or-
That's a brief discussion I had with council about 4 months ago. I'd like to check it because I want to be sure that they're on the condition necessary by legislative body to approve the money.
I guess I just want to put this in perspective for myself. We're not in a deficit right now, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not in a deficit now because we bought too many pencils or we bought too many, computers. We're in a deficit now because some kids moved in that were significantly challenged and had to have special education needs met
And there
out
were
of
some
district.
students in district that were no longer safe to be in district. So we had to place them out of district.
Okay, so the perspective that I would like the public to take home here is that we have special education needs that couldn't be met in this district, and it's out-of-district placement costs that are driving this, this deficit.
Among other things.
No, can you stop, please? Thank you.
I think that if you look at, we've had discussions about the current budget, because I said, let me take a look at it and say, okay, we had a lot of money in there for tuition, and that was a dramatic increase. So we looked at that, we went through the names, we held up the names of the students who left. Then we added the names of the students who knew were coming into the district, either from 6th grade or that had recently moved into the district or had been placed in the district. I think there was a difference of somewhere around $10,000 or $15,000 between those numbers.
Weren't there other factors that came into some of these changes also? also like
You have 100
less
and,
money coming from the state, transportation costs that were unseen, that were unknown about. I mean, it's not all on special ed, right?
you have
I mean,
transportation issues, you have health insurance.
right.
When you have an employee who signs up for health insurance, you just can't, you know, number one, you can't interview an employee and say, are you going to take health insurance? That's illegal, you can't do that.
Right.
So, and you can't hire someone because you think they might be single, and it's cheap. You can't do that kind of thing. So health insurance is well over $130,000 than what we budgeted. And what we budgeted. Good.
And remember, you have to have an open enrollment period every year. And when people are in the open enrollment period, sometimes a couple can get a spouse's plan, and then come this way because our office better benefits goes to.
So can I get a sense of what went without? Who went without because of, who was the hardest hit by the budget freeze? It just, if it comes to mind, I mean, what would be the most dramatic impact of somebody who was knocking on your door and said, no, you can't have this?
Quite honestly, there weren't a lot of no, you can't have this, because they were judicious and encumbering funds for what they really needed. And if they said, I can do without this, yeah, so do that.
How much was frozen, actually? I mean, how much?
I don't know. I mean, this has been going on since January.
10,000,
Oh.
100,000, 3,000?
I don't know.
When you first put the freeze on, what was your forecast?
I don't remember the, and it was probably because of knowing, it was probably because I knew I wasn't getting $70,000 in a transportation grant, was watching special ed, so I just put a freeze on, to try to be careful. So,
And a lot of these positive ones are all maintenance stuff that most likely get stripped out, with balances. So, things that we could have repaired. That we,
I think that's the question that I've been trying to get at. I mean, in an indirect way, you know, I think that's the right question, Danny, is what, you know, we have people in the room, I mean, that can probably answer. I mean, we budget to give teachers and the equipment and textbooks, supplies, maintenance to get that, to do their jobs. And I want to know specifically if that, you know, we strip them to the bare bones. I know there's teachers that probably can get by, but what is the percentage of that? And, you know, and we're covering all these additional costs, and I think that's what I've been trying to articulate again, is that we have a serious amount of money, whatever it's $500,000, $600,000, I believe it's in that magnitude, that we have, and Ms. Neal has done her job and done her due diligence to strategically move that and freeze things to get to that level to cover these additional costs. However, that tells me that we have, you know, some additional funds that we maybe have too high, and that's what I think we want to know. Do we really have too much money in this budget? Can we take some of this money, if we're carrying it forward, because we were told this is a continuation budget for next year, 17-18, is there some of that money that we can reduce to take the pain off of some of the towns? And I don't want to say that's what it looks like, but I want to know for certainty what the finances, what you're telling us. I want to know, because I think if we have.
I think that one thing this is what I said. First of all, remember, when people are preparing their budgets, they're preparing them in October prior to the budget season. And in many cases, it's probably 9 months before the funds are expended. So there are changes in prices, changes in availability. So we need to be very, very careful there. And you look at teacher salaries. There are people who resign from probably March through June. I know we probably will get a few resignations control over that. We try to show you where that extra money, with that extra salary. We've directed people to hire at the lowest possible step, to be as efficient as possible. I think that this year we've had some instances where we're covering two salaries for one position, not by our choice. And those are substantial salaries.
Anything else to report on? Can I ask a question? So, one of the questions I had was how much more is Leesville spend on special ed? And that hasn't been given tonight, so I just want to make sure that I'm reading this right. If I take object line 300, I take object line 513, I take object line 563 and 564, those are the major increases in special ed. Is that correct?
Object 300.
300.
The
You
bulk
said
of, the
most
bulk
of
of,
the additional professional services, special ed.
the bulk of the 300, yes, is special ed. And I have not, this, what you requested on special ed, I have not had a chance to do that yet.
Okay.
So,
I'm just,
so,
I got it, but I'm just trying to, for a number for tonight so I can understand. 513 is definitely special ed, correct? Okay.
513 is special ed out of district transportation. So that currently is 112,202.
563 and 564 currently are almost over
Yes.
500,000.
Correct.
So I get a total of overages of just those accounts of $847,000, of which I know there's about 160,000 to be paid.
I'm sorry?
So I get a total of 847, there's about 160,000 still to be paid, I thought was one of the numbers you indicated, was still an outstanding. No, I thought there was 100,000. Yeah. Well, revenue from the state of like 128.
128.
So that delta is $720,000. And so with Rich's point, that's a lot of money to come up with. And we're trying to figure out where it's coming up from and and how to get this back to a balance of 40 grand. That's what I'm worried about. And just those numbers are huge.
Special ed is.
But we can't keep saying special ed.
I understand.
I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to say, but to go back to Bruce's point, and Dave's point, and Amy's point, and Rich's point, I guess everyone's point is that it gives the implication that there's $700,000 of overfluff in the budget that's being yanked to pay for the emergency and special education. So as Rich was saying, as Joe was saying, that gives some indication that there's probably, if you look at year-over-year budget, if there were no adjustments made to those accounts, maybe there's $700,000 in our proposed budget next year. That's again, overstate, right? So we can't keep saying, yeah, it's all about special ed. There are accounts that have been purged because of this. And I'm not trying to single you out or just have to be careful with that, the way we're looking at it, because yeah, it is unexpected costs that are driving this, that are associated with special education, but they're being pulled from regular or other sources, maintenance, athletics, education, that we need to be mindful of because those are things that we're planning to do. Dave?
I would, a thought for the future is, the first time the special ed account is in a deficit, we, notify the board and they can go and ask for money instead of,
But I
doing
guess,
it in January.
so,
Because if, Dawn, you can help me out anytime here. If she's budgeted $500,000 in transportation and she has to spend $600,000 in transportation, good. Where are we gonna get the $100,000 from? Well, hopefully, maybe a tuition account takes that into consideration. But you don't know that because the students, special ed is unfortunately, I know I'm saying special ed, but it is one of the most volatile programs.
And
Because
some of those,
if tomorrow morning, somebody walks in the door and you need to educate them,
Let me give you an
But
example.
we're taking this too far. All I'm
I'm
trying
just-
to say is that we need to recognize the point of
Right.
those costs, whether they're 200,000 or $8 million,
Mhm.
they have to be dealt with. But
Right.
when you're taking those deficits or those missed projections and you're drawing upon the regular education, the other side of the budget, something's suffering, or the impression is, or the message is that we just have that kind of work on our budget.
Right.
And is
So,
that the case?
is that
Do
your
we have
case?
$700,000 of items put into the budget that we really didn't need? I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't
We
think so.
prioritized and cut those out, but so I guess what I'm saying is we keep saying, yeah, we pulled all this stuff to cover special ed because we needed to. We just need to make sure we understand the importance of these items that are there and what's being lost or what's being cut out.
we don't know what's gonna, so that's where like I mean, I choose the word balance in the budget, but I don't, I guess that is not accurate. I think we need to know what we actually spend on each line item at the end of the year, like, so if, conference registration, we budgeted $19,800, but we only used $5,000 of it. I think we need to know that so that we don't, maybe we can budget less.
You always know what you spent at the end of the year because your expenditures, we don't dummy up an expenditure. If it's transportation, it goes to transportation. So your year-to-date expenditures and your encumbrances, those total together is what you spent on that line item.
Is the adjusted budget, when we get something that says adjusted budget, is that what we actually spend it?
That's what you transfer. The adjusted budget is when you transfer something, when you initiate a transfer.
Be able to afford.
Yeah.
Let me get to Dave, because Dave's been talked over a couple of times. Let me let Dave finish his question.
So, Jen,
Yes.
out of the, I just want to clarify one thing about about these transfers. In the past, you've done them at the end of the year, and there was a concern that, we didn't, that it was a huge amount, we wanted to know where our budget was a little better, so we decided to report it.
Look,
And this helps us kind of figure out where we are on our budget.
in the past, where I got it, I don't think you ever do transfers. What you do is, you didn't like true up until the end of the year. Your board policy says you do it 4 times a year. So, facility, finance committee said, we're gonna do it the 4 times a year based on what the board policy said. Why they didn't do it until the end of the year, I don't know. I never operated that way. But some school districts never do transfers. As long as they have a $28 million budget and they don't overspend that $28 million budget, they never do transfers.
The accounts will never.
I'm sorry?
The accounts will just never settle out.
They never settle that. Right.
So there's a lot of money that didn't come in for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of extra expenditure, like, for example, insurance is pretty volatile because someone could get married in the middle of the year and want to add a spouse, could have a child, add a spouse, someone could leave. Another big one with the salaries is where, because of a certain requirement for staffing, instead of paying $150 a day for a sub, you have to pay $60,000, $70,000, because of the requirement. So there's a lot of things. I think it's really,
You also have, you might have budgeted teachers at bachelor's 7, and they were hired at master's 15. That happens.
and I think when you project salaries, so you project it at a certain level, and sometimes you get them at, bachelor, like an entry level. So you have surpluses, so you can never hit it right on. And I know one thing that I've heard from some people that they're very concerned that to keep, as a board, the message that they're hearing is that special ed, and every child really deserves an education, and we're statutorily required to provide education. So there's a lot of things that can happen, transfers and in and out. What I'm concerned about is it possible that some of the monies that we're expecting, we may not get from the state altogether, because that's happened to us before.
Well, the 128 from the excess cost, we've already been notified
Okay.
that that's the balance of what's expected to come in.
Okay.
Community use buildings, if people don't pay the bill, we don't get the money. Pay to play, we pretty much have the bulk of that money in. We just haven't offset that. Medicaid, I don't know if we're gonna get $6,800 in. We're hoping that we get that in.
You brought up the,
$6,800 is nothing in the scope, you know, the scheme of everything.
I think Amy brought up about conferences that got reduced, but were staff told, for example, that's a good example, that they couldn't go to a conference unless,
Conferences where if it hadn't already been covered, it was too late. You know.
so people that had planned to go to a
Correct,
conference
Right.
said,
It's
sorry,
already- Right,
we
correct.
don't have a PO.
Right.
So a lot of people have, okay. Thanks.
Anything else, Jane, on your report?
No, I make it better.
So, Bob, I guess it's just for confirmation, I don't want to wait till our next meeting. We need some clarification on as Mr. O'Connor suggested about the supplemental appropriation, which we're talking about, and the procedures. And the same for, how do we handle the deficit.
Now, I'm not saying that, and the reason I said to Dr. Finsky on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, and I was looking at this deficit, at that point, after doing it all day, at that point it was, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong and I'm missing. So I said to him, I'm done. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna let it go till Monday. We're gonna rerun all the numbers. We knew that there was another payroll, had just been done. I had, a county supervisor go through POs. We had special ed go through their POs today. That was the reason why you didn't get the budget projection. Because what if what if there's something wrong? Everybody makes mistakes. And so, therefore, that's why I redid it again today. And it's kind of in the same place. So I'm thinking, well, I think, I feel better about, that the number is there. We very well could have, I have to go through all the payroll encumbrances. We very well could have, something wrong. I don't think we do, because we've gotten better at that since I came. We never encumbered payroll before. We've just got this, health insurance deficit. We've got, 131, 70, we don't even talk about special. 70 grand we didn't get from transportation. That's $200,000 right there, you have.
Are we getting it?
$100,000 on this copy.
Are we getting it?
No, we're not getting it.
So we had only $128,000, Gene?
No, we already got
Yeah.
the other part of special ed. I was just saying, you didn't want to be talking about special ed, huh? Remove special ed, $100,000 cap year, $131,000 health insurance deficit, $70,000 transportation grant, that's another grant, not part of, special ed. So there's that. Sub-accounts.
How much overage would you feel that it would be important for the board to deal with?
How much what?
How much an overage is, and we're rattling off about $800,000 overages. At what point does it become something that the board really needs to deal with?
Well, I guess that, when I'm doing those budget projections, I don't think it would be me to say the board needs to go back and ask for more money. I think that's the board who makes that decision. I think that's
Well,
the
there's a
board
couple of
decision.
issues to it procedurally, but my question is, even if there was a way for the board to, I guess, supplemental appropriation was the town, how quickly can that be done? And when is it collected? Is it collected before the end of the budget year? Or can it be done for the current budget year, but collected after, in the next budget year? I don't know. I'm sure if you send whatever the supplemental appropriation amount is, if there is one, that goes to the towns, I'm sure they're gonna have to try to figure out how, and if it does go through, how it gets paid as well. What's that.
Right, exactly.
Because they have to plan it, everybody plans, and we have an allocation schedule that we send out every month, so.
Katie, one last question, just Jane, on the revenue side, is this 128, that's the total amount of money we've collected, we didn't get money before
No,
last
we
year?
did get money before, but it's already been received and it's been credited to the appropriate account in the system. So we only expect to get another 128. I don't remember, I think it might have been 340 or.
Yeah, it was altogether, it was about,
I
it was
don't
about
remember.
500,000, just under 500,000.
So we've already got
Not all
most of it. And then
No,
we get
total.
our last payment.
Total.
What was that deficit on the sub-accounts you started to say that?
Probably maybe 30,000,
Huh.
but.
Yep.
So, I just want to say one thing. Jane, I appreciate the numbers, I appreciate the time you put into this. So I think it's extremely important going forward, because one of the big items in here going forward is the increases, or what I'm almost seeing as lack of increases to some of the special ed accounts. So some of the questions that I would have going forward is like item 300. It's $192,000 in the debt this year. Your proposal is to add only 30 grand to that account.
Are you talking transfer?
No,
Oh, you're
this is
talking next
a
year's
new
budget?
By
budget.
next year's budget.
So now that's become the important question.
Right.
Did we put enough
Same
money
when
in
we
it?
get to the budget discussion.
I understand that, but that's why this information was very much needed and very much appreciated, so that when we're going forward, that's what we need it for. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is that any other comments on the report? Jane?
No.
Okay, brings us to item 6, there are no presentations tonight. Committee reports, athletic and extracurricular activities.
Can we go past those and see what it is?
You could skip committee reports? Okay, somebody want to make a motion to skip?
I'll make a motion to skip.
Second.
Any opposition? Okay, we're just moving along to the agenda. I'm going to skip all committee reports. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. It brings us. Yep. Okay, that brings us to action items, item number 8, but before I do so, before I do that, I know it's gonna get late. This is the last meeting for our student representatives, and it's that time of year when we have to recognize and thank you for your service to the board. And so we have 2 certificates from the board, a certificate of appreciation to Madeline Fitzgerald and Taylor Brisdale.
Yeah.
In recognition of the valuable contributions to the regional school district and state board of education. So thank you very much for your service and contributions.
Don't forget to ask him for a letter of recommendation.
So we need your political career.
That brings us to item 8.1, approval of the minutes from the May 8, 2017 special meeting, which was included 8.1A, and the May 2nd, 2017 district meeting, 8.1B, and April 15, 2017 regular meeting, enclosure 8.1C. Is there a motion to accept those? Motion made by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carol. One item just for reference here is we decided at our last meeting that we were going to include the 3 letters that we had received prior to the May 8th meeting to be included in the comments. So, I don't know, are these all 3? Yes, okay. So I asked that copies for the board here, just in case you guys didn't have copies.